Welcome to my channel Soft Fame 9. It all started on an ordinary evening, the kind where you expect nothing more than silence and routine. But curiosity has a way of sneaking up on you, and that night, it caught me completely off guard. My sister had left her room door slightly ajar, and I found myself lingering near it, drawn by a mix of forbidden intrigue and an unexplainable pull. Her wardrobe always fascinated me, the soft fabrics, the neatly folded skirts, the dresses that shimmered under the warm lamplight. But tonight, the pull wasn't just curiosity. It was a hunger to explore something I had never allowed myself to feel. I slid the door open and approached cautiously, my hands trembling as they hovered over her clothes. A pale pink blouse caught my eye. I hesitated. Just a touch, just to see. I whispered. And before my mind could protest, my fingers gripped the blouse and I slipped it over my head. The fabric pressed softly against my skin, and my breath hitched. My chest tightened, not from discomfort, but from a sudden, dizzying thrill. I froze, staring at the mirror across the room. The reflection staring back at me was unfamiliar. Softer. Lighter. Somehow, more me than I had ever seen. My jaw looked less defined, my shoulders narrower, and the blouse clung to a frame I had only glimpsed in secret fantasies. What is happening? I murmured, my voice trembling. It sounded higher, softer, and it made me flinch. My hands flew to my face, tracing my jawline, the curves of my collarbone, the strange thrill of discovering a body that felt both foreign and familiar. I laughed softly, a nervous, breathless sound. This feels right? I whispered to myself, disbelief and excitement twisting together. My reflection seemed to grin back at me, and for the first time, I felt a spark of something I hadn't dared to feel before, freedom. I lingered in front of the mirror, touching the fabric, adjusting the blouse, letting the sensation of this new self wash over me. It was intoxicating, terrifying, thrilling, and deeply, undeniably mine. That night, alone and trembling, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about discovering a part of myself I had hidden for years. And once you glimpse that part of yourself, there's no turning back. The next morning, everything felt off. I went through the motions, brushing my teeth, splashing water on my face, grabbing breakfast, but each action seemed amplified, surreal. My mind replayed the night before, every brush of fabric, every thrill of discovery. At the kitchen table, my sister hummed softly, chatting with Mom. Their voices felt distant, like I was underwater, while my pulse thundered in my ears. I tried to speak, muttering about plans for the day, but my voice felt strange, lighter, higher, betraying my inner turmoil. My hands fidgeted under the table, fingers twisting napkins, knees bouncing. Every glance from my sister felt like an X-ray, dissecting me. "You're quiet today," she observed, tilting her head. "Yeah, just tired," I muttered, forcing a smile. It felt thin, fragile, like paper over fire. She studied me a moment longer, curiosity in her eyes, and my stomach clenched. Could she sense it? Could she see the spark, the thrill, the shame bubbling beneath the surface? Work was worse. I entered the office, heart hammering, feeling exposed in a way I couldn't articulate. Every step felt charged, every movement magnified. Colleagues passed by, offering half smiles, casual greetings, but each glance seemed loaded, like they could see through me, into the secret I carried. "Hey, you okay?" Mark asked, leaning against my cubicle. "Yeah, fine," I said, my voice cracking slightly. I wanted to explain, to tell him everything, but fear clenched my throat. My hands twisted pens nervously, my mind racing. Do they notice the difference? Is my posture, my face, my energy betraying me? Lunch was excruciating. I sat at the usual spot, every whisper and glance magnified into scrutiny. My stomach twisted, my palms slicked. I wanted to vanish, to shrink into the chair and disappear, but beneath the anxiety, a strange thrill persisted, a quiet, insistent spark reminding me of last night. That blouse. That mirror. That electric sensation of becoming someone else. On the bus home, I stared at my reflection in the darkened window. My hair fell softly over my face, the fabric of my shirt clinging in a way that made me acutely aware of my body. Every sway of my hips, every subtle adjustment in posture made my heart race. Who am I becoming? I wondered. Can I ever go back? When I finally reached home, I bolted to my room and shut the door. Collapsing onto the bed, I pressed my face into the pillow, heart pounding. My mind was a whirlwind of fear, curiosity, embarrassment, and an undeniable thrill I couldn't deny. Even alone, the spark wouldn't fade. It whispered to me relentlessly, "This is you. You found yourself. You can't ignore it." And in that realization, I felt a terrifying truth settle into my bones. My life had changed, whether I was ready or not. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind replayed every sensation from the day, the thrill, the panic, the electric rush of discovering a part of myself I had long kept hidden. My room suddenly felt alive, charged with possibility, and I couldn't resist the pull any longer. I moved toward her wardrobe, heart pounding, palms sweating. Every skirt, blouse, and dress seemed to call to me, whispering promises of freedom, of self-discovery. My fingers trembled as I lifted a soft pleated skirt and held it against my legs. Just this once, just to see. I slipped the skirt on, sliding it up over my hips, and froze. The mirror reflected a version of me I barely recognized, slimmer, softer, delicate yet vibrant. A shiver raced through me. This feels right. My reflection seemed to grin back, daring me to continue. Next, I picked a blouse, a soft, silky fabric in a pale shade that matched the blush rising in my cheeks. I pulled it over my shoulders, and the sensation was electric, almost intoxicating. My reflection wasn't just a costume, it was alive. It was me, waiting, revealing, beckoning. Then came the makeup. I opened the drawer hesitantly, hands shaking. Lip gloss, mascara, foundation, blush, each item a tiny portal into a new identity. Clumsily, I dabbed foundation onto my cheeks, rubbed it in, corrected streaks, and watched as my face transformed. I applied mascara, nervous laughter bubbling from my lips as I poked and prodded at each eyelash. My attempts were imperfect, but each correction brought me closer to the reflection I craved. Voice was next. I whispered phrases, testing pitch and tone. At first, it felt foreign, jarring, but gradually, it settled, soft and melodic. My voice, like the clothes and makeup, became a vehicle for this new self. I laughed softly, experimenting with giggles, whispers, and playful murmurs, and each one felt like a secret triumph. Then I experimented with posture and movement. Tilting my chin, shifting my weight, swaying my hips subtly, every adjustment thrilled me. I practiced gestures endlessly, marveling at the way small changes could alter perception so dramatically. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Minutes stretched into a tapestry of discovery, excitement, and fear. My reflection was no longer a stranger. It was a friend, a companion, an ally, and a revelation. I had unlocked a door I had long feared to touch, and on the other side stood someone I had always wanted to be. Finally, as I carefully folded the clothes and returned them to the drawer, I lingered before the mirror one last time. My reflection held a quiet insistence. This is you. Don't hide. Don't shrink. For the first time, I understood that this wasn't merely about curiosity or play. It was about uncovering the self I had hidden for so long. And once you glimpse that self, once you dare to inhabit that truth, there is no turning back. The first time I stepped outside in her clothes, my entire body felt electric, alive, and terrified all at once. I had rehearsed it 1,000 times in my room, the blouse, the skirt, the way I held myself. But nothing could have prepared me for the reality of moving through the world as her, as me. The street was quiet, bathed in the golden glow of the late afternoon sun. Each step was amplified in my chest, each sway of my hips felt daring, even reckless. My hands fidgeted with the hem of my blouse, then dropped, finally settling in a way that felt natural. My reflection in the shop windows caught me unexpectedly, softer features, subtle curves, a voice slightly lighter than my own. I stopped, swallowed, and whispered to myself, "This is me, isn't it?" People passed by. Some glanced briefly, others didn't notice at all. My pulse raced. Every small look or passing comment felt magnified, but it wasn't judgment, it was attention, presence. I began to notice the thrill of existing fully, openly, in a space I had previously only inhabited in secret. I ducked into a small cafe to catch my breath, and the barista smiled warmly. "Hi. "What can I get for you today?" she asked. I whispered my order, my fingers gripping the counter as if I could steady myself through touch alone. My reflection in the cafe window reflected not just the exterior changes, but the growing confidence in my posture, my subtle gestures. Each small smile, each nod of acknowledgement, felt like a triumph. Over the next few weekends, I experimented more. Walks in the park, browsing through bookstores, running errands, all seemingly mundane activities, but for me, they were adventures into authenticity. Each encounter with strangers was a test. Could I exist in this form without panic overwhelming me? Each small victory, someone smiling at me, a friendly nod, an unremarkable glance, became monumental, affirming that I could navigate the world as this version of myself. I practiced voice modulation, laughter, and subtle gestures. Tilting my chin, letting my shoulders soften, moving my hips with ease, all of it was part of the process. In the mirror, alone in my room, I saw someone emerging more alive, more confident, more fully myself. There were awkward moments, of course. A curious stare at the grocery store, a hesitant glance from a passerby. My stomach twisted, my palms sweated, but I pushed forward, reminding myself that these were steps toward freedom, toward embracing who I truly was. By the time evening arrived, I paused in front of a shop window, studying my reflection. The lines of my face, the soft sway of my body, the light in my eyes, it was no longer foreign. This was me, discovered, alive, and unapologetically present in the world. For the first time, I didn't feel fear as the primary emotion. There was exhilaration. There was joy. There was a quiet, electric pride in standing tall, moving naturally, and allowing the world to see me. And with that realization, a quiet thought settled into my chest. I could do this. I could truly be myself, even outside the confines of my room, even under the scrutiny of others. I should have known it couldn't stay hidden forever. It happened on an ordinary evening. I had spent the day feeling more alive than I ever had, dressed carefully in a blouse and skirt that made me feel confident, even radiant. I had practiced my gestures, my voice, my posture, every nuance that allowed me to step outside as this new version of myself. But none of it prepared me for what happened when I arrived home. The moment I opened the door, I froze. There were shoes at the entrance, shoes that weren't mine. My heart slammed in my chest, every muscle tensing instinctively. Someone was home. The living room door was slightly ajar, and I could hear her voice, calm, casual. "In the living room," she called. Panic clawed at me. My instincts screamed to hide, to retreat, to vanish. But instead, I stepped forward, trembling, each step heavier than the last. My chest felt like it might burst. When I entered, her eyes met mine, not with anger, not with shock, but with a quiet attentiveness that made my anxiety spike even higher. "Oh," she said softly, almost gently. I can explain," I stammered, voice cracking. I didn't mean." She raised a hand to stop me. "Breathe," she said quietly, her gaze steady and unjudging. I inhaled shakily, exhaled, trying to obey. I didn't plan this. She waited, letting the silence stretch. My mind raced through every possible scenario, ridicule, anger, disgust. I braced for the worst. Then she asked the simplest question. "How long?" Her calmness, her patience, shattered my defenses. "A while," I whispered, barely audible. I didn't plan it. I didn't know how." Her gaze softened, focusing on me, not the blouse, not the skirt, not the hair, just me. "You look scared," she observed. I admitted. "Because I don't know how to go back." She leaned forward slightly. "Are you hurting anyone?" "No," I whispered. "Are you forcing this on anyone?" "No. Does it feel right to you?" I hesitated, old fears pressing at the edges of my mind, but beneath them, a spark of clarity flared. "Yes," I whispered. "It feels right. More right than anything ever has." Her nod was slow, steady. "Then why would I want to take that away from you?" The tension inside me shattered. My hands dropped to my lap. My chest unclenched. Tears burned in my eyes, not from shame, not from fear, but from the terrifying relief of being fully seen. "I was so scared," I admitted. I thought you'd hate me." I don't hate you, she said softly. I hate that you felt like you had to hide. It was the moment I had been avoiding my entire life. Hide, retreat, shrink back into the old version of myself. Or embrace this new self fully, unashamed and unafraid. I can't go back, I whispered. Even if it costs me things. She nodded, unwavering. Then don't. Fear transformed into freedom. The walls I had built around myself crumbled, replaced by the exhilarating possibility of living fully and authentically. Anxiety, shame, and self-doubt melted into something far stronger, empowerment. For the first time, I realized, embracing myself wasn't reckless, it was necessary. And I would never look back. The confrontation changed everything. It wasn't explosive or dramatic, there were no tears, no shouting, but it was transformative in the quietest, most profound way. I realized that living in fear, hiding this part of myself, had been exhausting. And now, with the weight lifted, I could finally breathe. The next morning, I stood before the mirror in my room longer than usual. I didn't scrutinize myself the way I used to. I didn't compare or critique. I simply looked. And what I saw wasn't a stranger, it was me. Someone alive, radiant, and unapologetically authentic. I ran my fingers along the soft fabric of my blouse, tracing the outline of my figure. I smoothed my hair over my shoulders, adjusted my skirt, and tilted my chin just slightly, marveling at the subtle transformation of posture and presence. For the first time, the reflection staring back at me felt powerful, confident, and undeniably mine. Stepping into the kitchen, I felt a quiet thrill at the thought of being seen as myself. My sister glanced up and smiled. "You look good," she said simply, and the simplicity of it struck me. No judgment. No fear. Just acknowledgement. That alone was enough. Work became less intimidating. I didn't announce my transformation, nor did I seek validation. I simply carried myself differently, lighter, freer, and more present. Colleagues noticed, of course. Some glanced curiously, some whispered quietly, but I didn't shrink. I spoke naturally, moved naturally, and for the first time, my presence felt unassailable. On weekends, I explored spaces where I could fully inhabit this identity. Quiet cafes, bookstores, parks, even evening walks under streetlights. Each outing was a test of courage, but also a celebration of authenticity. Every smile from a stranger, every friendly nod, every small acknowledgement of my existence reinforced the quiet truth. I could navigate the world openly as me. I experimented further, subtle makeup, hairstyles, voice modulation, and gestures, all with a sense of joy rather than anxiety. I discovered a small community of people who understood without explanation, who offered encouragement, and celebrated authenticity. I began to feel the deep, undeniable pride of existing fully in my truth. At night, alone in my room, I often paused before the mirror, studying the reflection. The soft tilt of my chin, the sway of my hips, the quiet confidence in my gaze. I saw someone I had always been, now fully discovered. Someone brave, empowered, and free. Empowerment, I realized, isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite fear. It's stepping into the world unapologetically, and choosing yourself over the doubt, shame, or judgment of others. And in that quiet revelation, I finally understood, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't playing a role. I had found myself. Fully. Unapologetically. And nothing, not fear, not judgment, not the past, could take that away. Sometimes, late at night, I sit by my window and think back to that very first moment. The moment I stood trembling in front of her wardrobe, my hand hovering over skirts and blouses I wasn't supposed to touch, heart hammering in my chest. That mix of fear, curiosity, and exhilaration, it still lingers like a spark I can't put out. Back then, I thought it was just clothes. Just a fleeting curiosity. But it wasn't. It was so much more. It was discovery. It was courage. It was the quiet, undeniable truth that had been waiting inside me all along. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see someone dressed in skirts or makeup. I see someone whole, someone authentic, someone alive. Someone brave enough to embrace every part of themselves, no matter how hidden, no matter how forbidden it once felt. There are still moments of doubt, days when fear or insecurity whispers at the edges, but I don't shrink anymore. I don't apologize for existing. I've learned that authenticity is stronger than fear, and that courage isn't the absence of doubt, it's moving forward despite it. To anyone watching this, anyone who has stood frozen in front of a mirror, hand shaking on a doorknob, unsure if they can take the next step, you can. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need anyone else to define your worth. Transformation isn't just about clothes, hair, or makeup. It's about honesty. It's about courage. It's about stepping into your life fully, unapologetically, authentically. For me, it began with a wardrobe. It ended with me, fully, unapologetically, undeniably me. And I've never felt more alive.